What's your name? My name's Django. Spell it. Django. The D is silent. And that is from the film Django Unchained, and that dropped in theaters in 2012. This movie was about a black man goes by the name Django that is being played by Jamie Foxx. He is a slave that was freed by a bounty hunter, and they kind of paired up together to go get some bad guys. They went to go after the Brother Brothers. But this was a movie that is very impactful on the time of slavery and how unique and different it was as a black man being free, doing the same thing, having the same kind of privileges as a white man at that time period. To me, I think the best part of the movie was when Django and Dr. King and Mr. Candy pulled up to Candyland, and all the slaves, when they first seen him on the horse, they were like, "Why is this black man on the horse?" They were like all shook and shocked. And so Django was walking around with one of the house slaves. She was showing them around the property when they were looking for the Brother Brothers, and she was like, "Why did you let Mr. King dress you like that?" And he was like, "No, I'm a free man. I chose to dress like this." And she looked at him like, "You chose to wear that?" And they zoom out, and he was wearing like some kind of, it was like a bluish suit, little like feathery, little like flower, little socks, whatever. Like he looked like kind of a little goofball to me. I was like, I wouldn't choose it. If out of all the things I could wear back then, I would not choose that. So in the movie Django, in the beginning, he kind of changes throughout the movie. It shows like very iconical changes throughout the movie with Django. In the beginning, he was like he was when they first found him in the beginning. When you first seen Django, his hair was wild. He was his ankles was all beat up. He was really like playing the role of a slave, and so throughout the movie in the beginning, he like kind of like maneuvered over and started like actually like wearing clothes. He got a little shave up. He got his hair nice and presentable, a little nice little beard, and he kind of like was looking for his like style of like what he would wear. And at first it was like a wardrobe mishaps, like it was bad. But he finally got the little like nice little aggressive little look with the nice little leather jacket, some little circle sunglasses that I was like put a 10 on top of the outfit, nice little cowboy hat, and he kind of like walked the walk with his fit. And from the beginning to like the middle part, he was like he actually built. He started very small, and then like every little growing moment, he got bigger and bigger. Like I would say, after they got the Brother Brothers, is when he like literally just like turned into a whole different man in the movie. He went from being like a slave 1 minute to actually taking down the people that were doing wrong and used to beat him when he was previously a slave. So I felt like that was a little chip on his shoulder. He perhaps you could say like he had that on his shoulder, and like he actually took them down, made them feel better. And actually from that point on, he kind of like he was the man. Like he walked the walk. He was what other slaves aspired to be. And he was like, you could say he was like, I don't even know who I could describe him. He was like the LeBron James of the NBA. He was the LeBron James for the slaves. He was like, that's what people wanted to be. They wanted to be that free man, walking the walk, riding a horse instead of walking miles and miles and fighting and have to be in the field. He was the man that people aspired to be. And I feel like by the end of the movie, he really was a whole different person throughout the whole movie. And this movie, I feel like the movie is based on racism. There's a very this is a very racist movie. I wouldn't say racist movie, but they hit on racism on a different way. Like instead of perspective of being like a white guy or something, they take the slave and they make that slave free, and how the world is perspective through his eyes. Instead of being like a slave movie, like how they're always mistreated, they took him from being a slave. They didn't show the part when he was a slave. They showed him from when he became a free man, and how the world was towards him. And I feel like it was there was some very racism, and I feel like this movie was pushed towards the audience of black people, just like to get like, hey, there's not all movies about just being a slave. There was like free people back then too. And this movie was a great representation of how we start taking little steps on becoming free individuals at that time period. And one of the big struggles he faced during this movie would be like how would I put this? It was man versus man, but it's also the man would be the white people. So it was more man versus society. It was a very, very, very big struggle with him being black, but him also being free. So it's like him versus the society, as white people did not want to see a black man free. And like when they first seen it, like there wasn't Samuel L. Jackson was in the movie. He was also a free man, so he wasn't the first man they seen as a free man. But like they kind of like at first they were like, "What's that N-word doing on that horse? What's that? Why the N-word wearing clothes? Why that talking to me? Why he looking at me?" But then they kind of knew like, okay, we can't talk to him like that because he's free and he has those privileges to do those things. So they kind of had to like lay back and like accept him for who he was and how he like presented himself. And I feel like this movie like did a very awesome jobs with like the scenes they showed. Like they would show the open fields and like they'd be walking and like they'd just do like little snapshots of like the cornfield and people working and the white man just standing back like they were lazy and the hardworking black men in the field. And also I like the songs. They placed little songs in here like the little like they I remember one song in there they were riding towards they were going to Candyland to go see Django's wife he tried to save. And spoiler alert, I'm sorry. They were riding along and he's just riding in some nice little melody song and then he looks off in the distance in a nice beautiful field and he sees his wife out there. It's like a little like he was imagining it. And like it kind of got sweet and then when they got there it stopped like right there like it got all aggressively. And I think this movie is very important. It did a very good job. I feel like Django in the movie Jamie Foxx as a free slave those is very rare at those times. Like this is probably the only movie that I've ever seen that showed a perspective from a freed man besides 12 Years a Slave. But this is the only movie I've seen that has shown like how deep he had to be committed into like doing what he wanted and how some people would think a freed man back in that time was impossible. This film showed that it was possible. And it was different. Not a lot of slaves had names back then, and that's how like the whole thing started was with Django. I feel like this was a very good movie to watch, and if you haven't watched it, I really highly recommend it. If you really like want to see your world's history like a little bit, it's not really historic, but if you really want to see how the world was back then, I would really recommend this, just to see how the other perspective, not from being a white slave owner or being a slave, but how coming from a slave into a free man, being treated as a white man, as you're black, and people see that you're black, is very different from being a slave or being a pure white man in America at that time period. And with that said, I'm going to wrap you up, guys, today. We talked about the movie Django Unchained. You can find that on Netflix or your local TV provider. They showed on HBO, sometimes on Mediacom, that's who I'm through. And I really recommend it. It's a really good movie, and it's a pretty long movie too. I think it's about 2 hours long. I'm pretty sure I was watching it on my TV right now. I watched it earlier, and I think it's like 2 hours long. So it's not just a quick one. I really advise you guys to sit down and take your time and watch this movie. You won't regret it.